Hi. So good evening. Today we're going to be discussing the Govind Nihalani film Ardh Satya for today's art house discussion. So one of the reasons that I went with this choice was because it sort of encapsulates a little bit of all of what Indian cinema has to offer, like be it the tropes that we grew up with, the police procedural, the police robber tropes, the shady streets. I mean, the shady underground of Mumbai, sort of crime thrillers, or be it the more pulpy stories of these sorts, or be it the more serious, gritty thrillers. Right? It's sort of it's a really unique mix of all these elements. Even though I'm sure a lot of it was, a lot of those elements were natural to came up naturally when the writer Vijay Tendulkar and Govind Nihalani were conceptualizing it. Uh, I think it's aged very well in the years since, especially because of how it contrasts with what you see in those genres today, and especially and the even with the issues discussed in the film, I think they ring true with what's been happening in the last few years with respect to women's uh, women's liberation, with respect to uh, with respect to toxic masculinity, father figures, and power that the police system carries, or how it's wielded by the government, and so on. So, to start off with, I would like to hear the initial reactions from each of you. So we have Vishal and Mohammed, right? So, uh, I would like to hear from each of you before we start, so that we can sort of start from there. Mohammed, do you want to
Yeah,
go first?
yeah. So Ardh Satya, I kind of really came to know how this movie, has opened lot of eyes in that era. Means around 83. So I didn't know because before that I had only seen Article 15 by Ayush Khurana's movie. So I thought, okay, this is a movie which depicts the real system, how even policemen are, they are victim of that system. No matter how honest or no matter how noble your thoughts, your ideologies are, you want to make a change, but ultimately you end up being a victim to that system. Okay, you are ultimately, butchered, scapegoat, that's all. But I never knew that such a theme has been explored, or this thing of this system had already been discovered how the system works exactly. Means in 83 I didn't know at all. And because before that we have seen many comic movies in police, they try, they make changes, but that was far from what really happens. And this movie really, opened this thing that, yeah, even policemen are not as strong as we think. Though they may have a thick voice, that commanding voice, but what really goes on them also, how they are systematically harassed. Because I have seen reading that dialogue, no, when he opens up to that lady at the end, that मेरी मर्दानगी को छलकार रहा है, they are challenging my soul's power. That was really touching. And how these people really feel, because I thought that, okay, policemen are some people who have seen the suffering and they don't feel that pain of humiliation and etc. Because the way they use hard words, the scolding words, lathi charging, once or twice I have seen how cruel they are. But when they are targeted in this way, means how, not with a gun or stick, but how in the hands of the politicians, they are like meow meow. So they have no any way of escape. They are systematically harassed. And yeah, the poetry, mainly the starting poetry, itself caught my attention that Chakravyuha means once you get into, because I've read that story, Abhimanyu's story. Once you enter into that Chakravyuha, no matter what you do, you are going to die a violent death. And I think this is what had happened in the movie also. He had to be, he was just a victim to the system at the end, and that was really true. What happens, I feel, if you are true, that if you want to hold up that principles, that I want to do something, I don't want to, live with this burden of, you know uh, burden of being, cruel, being manipulative, being very cunning in the system, so that I have to survive. He decides ultimately, no, it's better to live, live or die like a, like a true policeman rather than living a coward. So that was really good thing. I really love the movie.
Wow. Okay. That was great. Vishal, do you want to go next?
It's actually a good reference to good
Yeah.
by Mohammed to Article 15 because it's a movie that I really enjoyed. In fact, I would say it's a more skillful film than Ardh Satya. But the fact that Ardh Satya was made back then is itself actually credit to the film. It's we don't realize how difficult it is to make films which are offbeat. So and to make a film which and clearly it looks like an uncompromising film also. So that in itself is an achievement. Searing film. It's quite an angry film. You can feel the anger. Sorry, I've not seen it recently, but I've seen it multiple times, but I've not seen it recently. So probably I might not be in tune with the. I might not be able to reference things, but the poetry that is recited in the film is something which is actually I remember when I saw the film again I did not remember this poetry at all, and the second time around when I saw the film I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense and it gives the film so much heft. And we should, I think, give credit to the film for me the thing that makes it stand out is two things. I think the female protagonist, who even though uh, in terms of screen time she's a side character, but I was talking to Vivek yesterday and I was telling him about my disdain for Pushpa. So just talking about how women are depicted in cinema, Indian cinema at least, and this is like way ahead. It's
Hmm.
so ahead of its time. It's not even. It's not ahead. It's way ahead. And secondly is the father-son trope. It's I think emblematic to this idea of repression, right? For even for somebody like a cop, like he's scared of his father because he's not scared, but he's been directed by his father all his life, and then his bosses direct him, a gangster directs him. So this I found the father-son trope very effective, and I mean we come to know how good an actor Amrish Puri is. We only remember him as Mogambo, but he's one of the if you forget the lead actors of the Indian New Wave, like Nasiruddin Shah, Om Puri, Shabana Azmi, all these people. He was ever present in all these films as a side actor, supporting actor. I shouldn't say side actor. So which is missing today in our cinema. So uh, good film, good film, way ahead of its time. Not way ahead of its time. It's an achievement that the film existed when it was made. But it also tells you that uh, today it is probably much more difficult to make a film which is so truthful. Even though we have we are making films which are less masala probably, but it's still difficult to make films which are truthful. So credit to Govind Nihalani.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was well put, both of you. I'll start off with I'll just carry off from Mohammed's points first. I think it was really interesting. I mean, regarding how the poem itself and added this, another this other layer to the Anand Velankar's tragedy, tragic arc. Uh, like what I found interesting about it was the position, where it was brought in the film. It was brought in towards the middle, right? I think at the 40-minute mark or something, and it that was, I think, it was around that time when he starts thinking, or that's when his peak, his arc, his fall arc starts to begin, right? It's after that where we see him fully, go down this self-destructive path into into this, and then and then ends up taking Ramashetty's life. So another thing, and another thing that Vishal brought up, like the discussion about women characters can itself take up a lot. I think a majority of this discussion, if you go down that path, especially with how it is in Telugu cinema even now. I was just it's a coincidence. I was just talking about this with a friend, with a Telugu friend yesterday, about how about this particular thing, and it also, like, another thing that asked me about this film is how um, it's a writer's film, but at the same time, it's the performances that elevate it. Like, this film wouldn't have worked half as well without Smita Patel's like restrained. I don't know if restrained is the right idea, right word to use. It's a very controlled performance. It's a very meticulously controlled performance, because she offers, she takes up the role of a nurturer, right? Or a softer, what do you call, the more vulnerable side of Velankar. But typical typical depictions of this kind of a trope, or this kind of a female character, would have her be a lot more softer, and the characterization would be a lot more softer and a lot more, I don't know, like traditionally feminine, right? But here she's a liberal academic who's not afraid to, who's headstrong, and she's not afraid to voice out her own, opinions, or there. But it doesn't, like, those things don't clash. And it's, I mean, since in a film, when we usually don't get the time to act, fully convey the characters, of certain characters, nuances, and so on, right? So that's why filmmakers generally fall for these tropes, right? The coying heroine, the stoic husband, or so on. But this film offers something far more than that. Like, even with Ramashetty's character, he doesn't get a lot of screen time in the film, but when he does appear, depending on the shot size itself that he's shown in, you can tell uh, where he lies. Like, he's not the highest, he's not at the highest part of the ladder either. He's just a cog in the wheel, another cog in the wheel. But he does still prove to be one above Velankar in most of his scenes.
Hmm,
Uh,
I would like to add my understanding about this, about that Smita Patil's character.
yeah,
Um, she was more kind of a mature character, more restrained, as you have mentioned, And in psychology, we have taught this concept that if we are to guide a 11th standard student, for 11th standard student, actually we shouldn't be telling them not to do this. There we have to be a passive listener. But the same, but we are taught the same thing in a different way, where we have to handle 6th standard students. Suppose a lower primary student, there we will intervene with our own understanding that this is not good. Suppose example, smoking. I can tell this 6th standard student that smoking is a bad thing. Please don't do. I can, intervene and, suggest him a better way of, better things. But for a 12th standard, I shouldn't be doing, because he's mature enough to understand the consequence. So similarly, I see this way, that she kept very quiet. She knew what is going to happen. She saw that, yeah, this man is suffering, because he's not happy with this his job, but she didn't tell him. But at the end, she mentioned that you quit this job. But till then, she, kept quiet, because she knew that here is a mature person. Let him decide for himself. Let him take some blows in his face. Let him experience some more. If he is able to discover that thing for himself, well and good. That shouldn't be my judgment. I shouldn't be imposing. And I think that's a good thing about an academician, any teacher and activist. And she did it wonderfully. That is what I understood by her character. A very This character, shows us lot of things, because in even in bus scene, no, she says this happens with many ladies. Why only me? Why do you feel concerned? Why do you feel anger? Why you show this anger? So much anger. What about millions of ladies every day suffering, and you don't feel anything? Here also she's trying to generalize that you are too, partiality in your own, in justice. Partiality of justice means, how do you view this world? If that is happening with another lady, you don't give a shit about that. But when it is happening with me, you are concerned. Yeah, they because you have affection towards me, but that doesn't justify, because you are even a police officer, and you shouldn't be do something constructive, so that all others will also get, just beating one guy will not do any, it will not, do any, bring any required changes in society. Just beating him, rather you are only, you are coming down to that person's level. By hitting him, you are becoming an animal, that's all. So this Smita Patil's character is beautiful, means wonderful. It teaches lot of things.
Yeah, and another thing to bring up.
Yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
but
sorry, Vishal, go
no,
ahead.
no, nothing. It's not about the film. It's having dated a liberal academic. What she does in the film, right? It is it's a sign of the strength of her character, because it is very difficult, even for an academic. It is very difficult to speak your mind when you sit in your what is it called, your offices.
Yeah,
It's not easy, because especially today it's not easy. But I don't know what was the case then, but today, because we live in such a polarized world, so I know I have like an insight, not a expert, but I have an insight of how it how this how that world works. So having dated a academic, it's a very, her character portrays insane strength. And as Mohammed pointed out, the bus scene where she says that this happens to women all over the world. Something similar happened with me also. I I had been to Delhi and I never felt. I thought, oh, why do people have such bad vibes from Delhi? But with uh, when I went with my girlfriend, I could realize the toxic masculinity is in the air. And she said the same thing to me, that uh, why are you so bothered? This happens all the time. So so it also says things have not changed.
Yeah, I don't have to state it anymore. I just had that to say. Like even I've had similar conversations. Like the bus scene is something that still rings true. To I suppose since we are all men here, I think it's something that we all tend like that. There is that moment of realization that we all go through in our lives, right? Somewhere in our mid, probably in our late teens, mid early 20s, where we get this, I don't know, cultural shock, or I don't know what else to call it. This untold something that we don't really see, or that we are not even fed by other people in our life, be it our elders and so on, and we just find it like this. Uh, and yeah, like when I first saw the film, I was confused by her reaction. uh, I mean, and that too, it was more or less because I watched this film probably some 4 5 years back. I think the first time was around that some 2016 or something. I had just got into college then, and the second time was only last year, and that's when it really clicked for me. Just how, I mean, the this particular experience, this micro, what do you call it, this particular thing. And it's crazy because you don't even see something like that today. Even say when you see say when films try to depict or address these things these days, it's still shown to be, there is still some drama added. There's still the treatment of it is still sensationalized, uh, and that which adds a layer of artificiality to it. Because if something so common, or something that's happens, is treated as a, like a drama moment or a dramatic moment, it sort of drops away from the point you're trying to make about the, what do you call it, the what kind of a behavior is this, right? I mean, what our society is like. So
One
the
thing,
fact that this, I'll just
uh,
finish this. The fact that this isn't even shown to be like, it's shown in such a matter of fact manner is another testament to the writing and the direction here. Because this particular moment could have been exaggerated easily. It could have been taken in different ways, but it isn't. And the film sticks by Jyotsna's statement that way, and that's what makes it a lot more powerful. Um, yeah, sorry, Mohammed.
the same thing still exists, but this mobile phone have done one good thing, because we are busy with our own, browsing our videos and some. Nowadays, even if I sit with a girl in a back seat of a bus, nobody bothers. Especially in Bangalore, I am saying, Brigade Road, the main center, Jayanagar Fort Block, or people don't pay attention. And I try to find it out why people are not concerned now. But whereas 20 years 30 years back, when mobile were not there, people were like staring at you like you were committing a grave crime by talking to a girl or sitting with a girl in back seat. But now they don't give, I've seen a lot of girls come back and they sit and chat and they spend their, and most of them they are also immersed in the mobile. But whenever a girl or boy sit, people are not concerned, means okay, let it be, it's the modern trends, that is what. And I think this mobile people, the good thing about mobile is that they have made us you know use our own time, means engage ourselves. And that is one good thing about mobiles. We don't focus on other people life. That is also good. That means uh, don't peep into other people's personal things. That's one thing I would suggest all humans.
Yeah, I suppose so. But do you think, Vishal brought up another point that I felt I should point out. Do you really think this film would if it can get made today?
Mm,
Uh,
I'm not sure about that. Vivek should.
Vishal, any thoughts?
If Nayata has such a backlash, then what chance does Ardh Satya have?
Okay. With Nayat, I still feel Nayat had another issue going along with it, right? With the with the with the with the way the Dalit activists were brought, the Dalit characters were involved in the
But what is the
storyline. But yeah, I agree with.
I actually, I mean, you can say it is, it's not politically right,
Hmm,
but you can't say it's not true.
okay.
Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right? Because then, which that says that Dalits are, uh, Dalits don't know the power that they have. As in, I'm not obviously sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that they are not marginalized.
Yeah.
Um, Once you get political power, then obviously there is a section which knows that they have power and they can do what they want. Like these people are goons. They are
Hmm.
not marginalized people in the film. These people are goons. They are not marginalized. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I thought it took a lot of balls to make that film. The fact that it even uh, it has the courage to say, okay, there will be a group of people who might who might be who come from marginalized community, but community, but doesn't mean that they're right. So I
Hmm.
really had no problem with Nayata. So that's what I'm trying to say. If Nayata had such issues, then I think Ardh Satya can be made today. That's
I,
I,
yeah,
I
because
don't think that is a problem. But
the Rama Shetty arc is also a similar thing. Like so, essentially the same thing as what they do in Nayata, for the except here it's the Don and his goons, right?
so if Nayata is sorry, if Ardh Satya is made today,
Hmm.
uh, uh, when I'm talking about the truth, films ideally should be based on something. Not ideally. When we a film like Ardha Satya, if we can connect it with something in terms of when I say hold on, call करेगा?
Okay.
Guys, I probably like you'll have to give me a couple of minutes. My niece is acting up. So
No, it's okay. Yeah.
no, so I think problem is not with Ardha Satya not being able, whether or not they'll be able to make it today. But back then, as I think we were talking about the other day, this angry young man, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, it was a very relevant idea. Today, is it relevant? That is the question. So, how do you connect? How do you find a connect with this topic? So that is the question that you have to answer. So, for example, Article 15 took up a very universal idea. It was actually not about a cop.
Hmm.
Article 15 talked about a very, very universal idea, very skillfully made. So it was about what exactly does it mean to be a hero. That's what the film was about. So, as Ardh Satya uses the poetry, Article 15 uses Bob Dylan's song to get to that idea.
Yeah.
So, uh, it's uh, it's not difficult to make a film like that, but difficult to make a film with the truth. That's what I'm trying to get. For example, if you can you make a film about two politicians today, two strong politicians today, and get away with it? It's going to be very difficult, right? Because
Yeah.
this reference will be to the supreme beings that are ruling the country. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Even Maniratnam couldn't get away with it in the 80s. He had to sanitize it.
you have to sanitize it.
Yeah.
That's a different matter. But today, things are so polarized, right? It just takes one tweet to cancel a film.
Yeah.
So, and like liberals can cancel a film, even right wingers can cancel a film. Correct.
Yeah.
So, imagine a film like Dilwale, like not that it's a good film, a film of Shah Rukh Khan not getting a wide release. So it's very touchy, is what I'm trying to say. So you have to give actually credit. As in, I'm very happy that Mohammed brought up that film because there's in Article 15 they he openly talk about the fact that whom did you vote for. So it's like cycle के लिए vote किया, हाथ के लिए vote किया. So I think that is much more difficult than.
True, Jeffrey. I think I too believe what Vishal has said, because making in this era, in present time, a movie on means real corruption. I'm not saying universally what is happening, but you can't pinpoint it at now. Even in movie it is shown that cop, but we can't do this one now, because people have more, means politicians have more, far more power than what they had earlier. That is what I believe. And nowadays it is penetrated. Even politicians are very careful that movies, how means what movies, what impact this movie can have in our society. So they are very careful about these things, and I think they will keep an eye on our movies, and they are very vigilant now. So it's now is more, means in difficult scale, if I have to say. Definitely now is a very difficult time for any movie maker to explore such theme.
So you can make a cop movie, but if you are speaking these difficult truths which are there in Ardh Satya, then I think unless and until it's like a art house film which is not going to get a wide release, otherwise it's near impossible to.
Get admitted.
I think forget Modi and Shah. Uh, it's very simple. I'll tell you. Nobody was able to make a film on Indira Gandhi till Modi and Shah came in power. Just imagine. That's how difficult it is. So anyway, this is the reality. As in we truly do live in a better, probably in a more cinematically open environment, but doesn't mean that we should be happy with it. It can go. I think it can go pear shaped at any point in time. So yeah, I think to answer your question, it is. Speaking the truth is more difficult, right?
But a foreigner can come, and he can make a film and just go back so that he will not be attacked.
I don't think a foreigner would be able to capture the nuances of our like say even a Danny Boyle. Danny Boyle could capture the essence of Scotland, the essence of uh, Scottish culture in train spotting. He couldn't do that here because it's a lot more myriad than that, right? It's a lot more complicated than that. Even he borrowed Bollywood tropes when it
But
was
I think
convenient for a
I
story.
personally think I'm not saying he would have been able to, but I personally think so if you watch Train Spotting, what is it about Scotland that you get from Train Spotting? If you ask me, I'm not richer in terms of understanding Scottish culture. So I don't think his aim was to say anything about, say something deep about India. Obviously, there was poverty porn in that film, but I think
Yeah,
one also has to probably read the book to get where his inspiration was coming from. Not read the book, so maybe something also has to do with the book itself because it was an adaptation. But that's again, I might be wrong. That's my feeling. I feel
yeah.
like it
The
is
book. I
to
mean,
unfair to talk about Slumdog Millionaire without talking about the book.
Q&A.
It's an adaptation.
Yeah, but again, from what I understand, the book and the film are barely similar apart from the premise,
Okay.
and I think the rights in the film.
Okay.
That's about it. And I mean, obviously, I think some of the questions may have also been taken from there and so on.
But I also feel that um, I might be wrong, but I feel what in terms of even if it was a nuanced film, would it have made
it wouldn't have won the Oscar.
No,
That's
see,
what.
it won the Oscar because of multiple reasons, right?
Yeah.
It's the time, as in not time, but oh, it's sometimes it's these extraneous factors which
Yeah.
influence the award season, and award season shouldn't be taken so seriously. As in, okay, fine. As in, films get, for example, The Salesman won the Oscar for foreign language film. It definitely did not deserve to win the Oscar. I mean, far from it. But it did win because that was the politically right thing to do. A Fantastic Woman won the Oscar. It did not deserve the Oscar. In fact, the film in still remember the film in competition for the foreign language Oscar was a movie called on Netflix, and I would highly recommend it, called On Body and Soul. And I thought that was probably the best crafted film of the year. So sometimes politics take over. There are these extraneous factors. But my comeback, like, would it have been a film that would it have made it a masterpiece? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think the film was there was something that this is the film that he wanted to make and he made it. And I also don't think that just because uh, I don't know. I don't know. I might be.
I see what you mean. Like the sensibilities were different, right, to both
Because
projects.
let's say
So
if I make
we
a
can't really hold him accountable.
Malayalam film, okay, for example, if I make a
Yeah.
Malayalam film, I probably will not know. So, for example, one thing that I've noticed is this love of Malayalis for Hindi film music, especially old Hindi film music, which is quite a stunner compared because you go to Tamil Nadu and they're not really interested in Hindi music at all, right? So you also tend to have this equation
Yeah.
that Keralites will also not have this love, but my God, their love for Hindi film music is immense, and you see it in their cinema. So maybe, and as an outsider, maybe I will not be able to capture it. But does it mean that I will not be able to capture those nuances? But probably I can still make an effective film and a skillful film compared to a native Malayalam. So I'm saying it
Definitely. I don't think we are debating like the skill or the craft here, right?
correct,
It's
correct,
more
correct.
about
What
the
I'm trying
truth,
to say is,
right?
trying
How
to
truthful it
say,
is.
what I'm trying to say is maybe that was the film that he set out to make.
Yeah, yeah. It's a stage. It's a what do you call, like a
So, no,
vision
no,
thing,
no, no,
right?
no, I mean, you like it, you don't like it, you don't.
Yeah,
That's also.
yeah, yeah.
But I personally did not have. I mean, it was poverty porn, but I personally had no real issues with it because I mean,
Hmm.
it is what it is. So
Yeah, yeah.
Just a addition, because I have read somewhere that some NGOs, which are funded by the foreigners, they come forward to collaborate with Indian, filmmakers, where we can capture the reality, so that it can be shown on the international scale, and we can make this issue bring to the light of international audience, so that some United bodies can take action, something like that. Are those things happening in India, or just it's on paper?
I don't know how that sort of thing works, but I would say why let's say an American who has a decent standard of living, why would be interested in watching middle class, uh, a similarly middle class Indian person who's living a similar life, standard of living. That's what I'm trying to say. So he will want to see something that is probably not seeing
Exotic.
exotic. It can be
Yeah.
considered exotic, right? As for example, similar example is when all Indian men want to watch in American films is nudity because they do not get enough of it here. So what you do not get, you seek. So it's not about right or wrong. It is just the human condition.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the film.
But yeah, let's get back to Ardh Satya. I think we took a long enough.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the opening. Uh, for a film that's so rooted, or that's so, what do you call, uh, most of the settings in the film happen outside, right? They happen in either either dabas, or in a crime filled neighborhood, or in the police station. But the film starts off in a completely different a completely different class, right? Space as such. It starts off with a party. uh, so do you think there's anything, and we start off with Anand seeking, or Anand connecting with Jyotsna at the party. So to me, it felt like uh, he was already like he had been seeking, like even before we were introduced to him, he's already seeking for a better life, or he's already uh, looking out for something that he doesn't know yet. So do you think there's anything like you feel that you can like bring to this, or is there anything more to it? Especially with how that scene played out, and how their how their relationship, or how their characters were established, both the both of them.
I have different opinion about the opening scene, because people are dancing. I thought that was a kind of a symbolism that pop culture has entered India, and showing these two characters, the male and the female, they represent our Indian. Okay, that is what I came to know. Okay, they are coming together because they are Indian. They somewhere carry Indian values in this complex, very transition. India's transition, transiting into pop culture, Western cultures, and these people are have that similar, mindset affinity. So they are coming together, and conversation begins. So somewhere we are talking about our Indian. It begins story that about our Indian system. Something that was my take on.
I think there will definitely be, in terms of aesthetic, there will be a class. See, sorry, as I said, I have not seen the film recently, so I might not be very coherent. But there is probably a class aspect there. But then again, she's not his moral center, but something does happen in his life, which, as in terms of the story, things unravel in his life and things unravel around her. Correct. So
Yeah.
so in terms of storytelling, it's I'm sure, as you said, something he might obviously be. It's obviously actually looking for a better life, but what has happened earlier, he tells you through the course of the film. Like where he
Hmm.
comes from, he tells you through the course of the film. But this is where it starts. As in this story, this is where it starts. They meet and things start happening.
Yeah.
Before that, all these events in his life, important events in his life, important influences, he tells you through the course of the film.
Hmm. The backstory comes out later on, like
Right.
the why he's the way he is, and
Exactly.
it explains all those what do you call body, the small body quirks and so on.
Hmm, hmm.
Speaking of which, let's can I also found another, like I'll just close her Smita, the Jyotsna character. I mean, this thing with this, I found it interesting that we weren't told much about her apart from her with respect to Anand, and her and the establishing scene with the staff. And I think in most movies, I mean, in most movies, this would count as bad writing for the female characters, right? When they are crafted with respect to serving a function in the plot and so on. Even in this film, it kind of does. Like one of her functions as a character is to serve as a, like as this intellectual uh, opposite or intellectual rival to what Anand's rage is, right? Primal rage is against all the evils, all the social evils in society. Uh, and but even then, but yet, even though like, even though she may have materialized as a character from, I mean, from that perspective, she's also given a lot. She's also given some important scenes of her own. Like the midpoint bit is that. There's a scene where the activist is talking to the audience, and we close in on her. I don't remember exactly what the activist, and I think it was a real activist figure at the time. I'm not so well versed with the person behind it. I couldn't find a lot of information about her. Shanta, some paraphrasing her name, Shanta or something. But and what she's saying itself doesn't matter. It's about what her effect, what that is, what Jyotsna is getting out of her, or what she is, the kind of figures that she grew up around versus what Anand had to grow up around. So I think it was pretty. It was unnecessary. I think from a you don't really need that in this film, right? the the parallels don't need to be like, if one were to look, if one were to make this today, I think it's just serving that answer. I don't think this particular scene would have made the cut because it's a 3 4, I think it's a 3 4 minute uh, uh, it's a 3 4 minute scene about an activist, a character that we don't care about, who just appears in this particular scene to give a speech and go, is given so much prominence, uh, and it's just a reaction shot from her, right? But it's there and it still serves a purpose. It still serves a purpose in just underlining just what her, how how she refuses to be defined by anything else, right? So I found that pretty interesting. Yeah. So moving on, I wanted to talk about some craft related stuff, like some cinematography. I wanted to shed some light on the cinematography. If yeah, one of the things I noticed on this week's watch, was the lighting. Along with uh, once Anand's once Anand gets the suspension, the second one, and once he starts to go off the rails, the lighting on him in every scene starts to become a lot, all the more harsher till the climax. And this was pretty unique for a Indian film in that time to do something like this. And the only time we're shown a particular like only time we're shown someone cast in this light in the same lit the same way elsewhere in the film is with Ramashetty in the scene where he tortures the guy who gets burnt, the laborer who gets burnt later on. So I think even visually the film does try to lend the film does have some visual flair, and it does come up in a few scenes, in a few scenes. Another one also being where his father, Anand's father, talks about his legacy, and how it's while the camera pans over a series of photographs of his family. Uh, it was very minimal. But it was very beautifully done. It was all the more like it was pretty something I found very unique from that for a film from that time. Uh, so I was wondering if this was the same case with Nihalani's other films, or and you like Vishal, you mentioned earlier how how it can be hard to for someone to direct and do the DOP at the same time, to do the cinematography at the same time. So can you shed some light on how this process works with respect when you're taking up your own film, and especially with independent film, right? Would what where at what point in the story, at what point in the pre-production or the production would these kind of decisions be made? And where do you think this would uh, have happened?
I think with Govind Nihalani, though, probably for Ardh Satya, or maybe because he's making an offbeat film, then it saves cost, right? So maybe that is an aspect here. But it is, I would say it's not ideal to be a cinematographer and director, but he's obviously done it. So maybe he's not. Uh, we will need to get a confirmation from him. But probably what happens is you are a DOP, but you are not the operator. So that might so the operator knows what Govind Nihalani wants, and he does the job. Or else, I mean, if it's possible that Govind Nihalani himself wielded the camera, but then it's cinematography. I always wonder, like, how do you concept? I mean, how do you get the best in both the worlds? Because cinematography is a very technical job, and you need to get it right. So, and if you are concentrating on that, then how do you concentrate on the actors? Because it's not as if the actors read the lines and come and perform. You need to spend time with the actors. You need to give them directions. So I have no idea how you would do it. As in, I mean, it's an independent film. You have to do everything like Shane Carruth does. You do it. That's fine. But I really don't know. As in, it really depends on the type of setup that you have. So unless and until we have an idea of what kind of setup Ardh Satya was, we would not know how it might have happened. But if he had a different operator, then probably uh, life would have been definitely easier. But if he's operating the camera himself, like for example, Steven Soderbergh does, or at least used to do. So then it's a different ballgame.
I think some amount of thought must have been put into the shots in pre-production itself, right? Like maybe with the storyboard or something or the other. Like I don't think storyboards were as common in that time, right?
No, but
In
s- uh, s- no, but then that is a totally different conversation, right? Because the DOP does not make the visuals. I think the DOP makes the visuals in Indian films. The DOP actually does
Hmm.
all the hard work, and that's why they get paid so really so well because they actually design the visual. But if he's the director and DOP, that means it is his vision, and he solely gets credit for that vision. So,
Okay.
in terms of, so let's say this is a shot which is this is like a long shot, just a one shot. The whole scene is being uh, shot in one go. Then you do the blocking, and the operator will have to follow that sort of block. The frame, you tell the operator like this is what I want. This is my frame. These are this is what I want, and he'll give you. Though there are a lot of, as in, I maybe things have changed a bit, but earlier thought DOP used to set up the shot also.
Yeah.
The actor, this one just directed the actor. There is, you look at the films and there is no visual flair. No, the reason is because the director does not get involved in setting up the film.
Hmm.
So, but him, if he's the director and DOP both, so that means he's doing that job. And obviously discussions, sure that must have happened, but I'm very sure that he's the one who's in charge of.
Yeah. Because I felt the like there were some interesting I felt the camera whenever it moved with a certain purpose, right? Something that stuck out to me on this watch, and I also had a word to say about the editing. Also, I felt it was very uh, it was slightly at least in the first, I think the first act and the third last act, but the third act, both were surprisingly fast paced for for a parallel film.
Mm.
uh, so like I in my head it so immediately drew me to something like Serpico or something like Taxi Driver. In that, I mean, the influences, or it may have come from there, or that must have been some, some reference in the production of the film.
It, uh, totally possible because I think Scorsese has been an influence for everyone since Taxi Driver came out. So it's possible. There's no getting away from it.
Okay. I wish we had like something to back it up. I don't think, maybe like because during while I was doing the booklet, like while I was looking up material for the booklet, I couldn't find anything related to the technicians behind the film, and
I, when
struck me off.
I saw the film and having seen it multiple times, nothing about uh, nothing about the camera or the editing uh, felt extraordinary to me. So, as in, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying it's.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
So I'll take an example of Heather.
hmm,
Every frame in that film makes sense.
hmm.
Every frame in that film is very, very carefully composed. And even if there were no dialogues, right, every frame is doing something. So that is not the case with Ardh Satya. No? It's more realistic in its style.
Hmm.
So that could be a reason why you don't have a lot of literature on Ardha Satya per se. I'm not saying which doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
have a lot of literature on other films. Let's be frank.
yeah,
But it was not a film which, in terms of style, uh, I felt like, oh, it is extraordinary. So that's what I'm saying in terms of craft. I found in terms of metaphors, skillful, being just a skillful film. I found Article 15. Mohammed brought this up. I found Article 15 to be very, very skillfully made,
hmm.
very well shot, and there are a lot of things going on. Like there's this second layer in the film. So very nice film. So this is and it I the craft in that film got my attention. I've never got that with Ardh Satya. It's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
Though I have to say there is one shot in Ardh Satya that I cannot ever forget. It's a very simple shot,
Hmm.
but I cannot ever forget. He's riding his bullet,
Yeah.
and the BST is it follows him, and it's like this. His anger, his anger is accentuated by the red of the BST. So BST is basically buses in Bombay, local buses. They are called BST.
Yeah.
So his and they are always red. So it is such a carefully, beautifully composed shot, and I could feel his anger through the red of the BST buses. So
Yeah.
that is a lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yeah. Like I think in my like I felt there was some
I think what you should have
like
done,
I did connect.
when you were telling me, I think what you should have done was you should have, because you saw these parallels,
Hmm.
you should have brought something, uh,
Up in the booklet.
not a booklet, maybe you could have just cited a scene from these other films that you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
You could have done that because you don't really, if you think that it works, then you don't really need literature to back it up because it works for you. So
Right. Okay.
you should have just done it. Anyway, it's okay.
No, yeah, yeah. No, so what I meant was, I mean, so there are certain cuts made in the film where uh, where certain scenes end with a loud with an action, and the next scene starts off with that action. What do
Okay.
you call? Uh, action car punch or whatnot.
Uh-huh.
So, the, so that was something that struck out to me because that's how, as the suspense or as the anger slowly builds up, it's first done It's first done through the sound and through those edits before it becomes a lot more overt part of uh, the Anand's physicality and so on before it becomes such a big problem or such a big. s- b- before it becomes that over. So and I noticed something similar with Serpico, because Serpico is also a similar story. It's a similar cop. I mean, it has a cop who's uh, found to be helpless, who's stuck, right? That case, in that case, it's about police corruption, right, within the precinct. And here it's a different setup, but the rage is real. And even in that film, I think Sidney Lumet and his team did relied on uh, relied on extreme close-ups and uh, choice, like very controlled use of sound uh, to relay this to the audience.
Okay,
So I'll see. I'll try to pen something down and you know put it across.
great, great, great.
Then do you want to talk about the other police officers in the film and the way they are characterized against Anand? Because not I don't think any of the other police officers face this particular conflict, right? And why do you think that's the case? Because I felt, to me, it felt like they were portrayed more as, uh, I mean, they're portrayed more akin to your like typical government officers
So,
than cops.
actually, when you said that the lighting becomes harsher, correct? So that might
Hmm.
have foreshadowed with Nasiruddin Shah's character. Maybe the lighting on his face at that point in the film, though he comes from for one scene, right? So
Yeah,
maybe there is like in terms of lighting, that might have been a sign that this is how he's going to be lit. Ompuri is going to be lit later on because he is also going to go mad in a way. So,
yeah,
so that is one thing. And uh, this question that how about why these characters were like they were, I think it is important that these characters accentuate whatever these characters do should accentuate what happens with Om Puri's character, because if they are similar, then it becomes a mirroring, which there is no point in mirroring in this film. So
hmm,
they have whatever they do have to be in stark contrast to what he does, or in conflict with what he does. So they even if they are within, they cannot be within. You know, they cannot be
yeah,
within all the way, and that is the only way he can stand out. Otherwise, it doesn't become a personal story.
yeah,
So the idea, I think, in that aspect, the idea is not to be real. The idea is to be probable and to flesh out Om Puri's character through the contrast in these characters.
hmm, okay. So I think that's more of a writing lesson, right?
It is.
Because that is one of the more, I think, stylistic flourishes, that side of the that particular portion of the film where the
100%.
other police officers are gone.
Pretty sure, yes.
So
And also, it helps that you have Vijay Tendulkar as the writer because, I mean, he's one of the great playwrights of India. So,
yeah,
if you say if you consider that there are great playwrights in India, then he'll be up there. So it always helps. There is a reason why these characters are they ring true
they ring true. Yeah,
because it is written by a master.
exactly. Yeah. Mohammed, do you have anything to add? I think you wanted to say something earlier, right?
No, about the characters, I felt that yeah, they have accepted the reality that anyway we are going to be, no, at the end, the system is going to dominate us. So it's better be, accept it and be happy. Go with the cycle. That is what they have done, other police. But who doesn't do that, like Nasruddin Shah, you know they will be facing. So that is what I felt about this all other police characters. So it is showing that if you accept, you will leave and you will be able to enjoy, lot of things. And if you decide to, struggle, if you decide to oppose, then you are going to be like Nasruddin Shah, and ultimate you are going to, go down and suffer.
Be
That's what.
punished for doing your
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
And the the fact that his father forced him into this, and the fact that he uh, he ultimately wants him to come back and live with him is what makes it even more tragic. Like the and the father son dynamic sort of, I mean, the father son part, the angle sort of, what do you call, it makes it that much harder, because in a way his father is what pushed him into this pit or this maze as such, by sending him on a journey that he didn't even want to do. Uh, I don't know. I'm not that, my knowledge on the Mahabharata is very not as polished or anything. But I felt it was odd that, I mean, I felt it was sort of apt that, having read upon it, read upon the context of the Chakravyuha, the lead up to this discussion, that it was the fathers here that pushed him into the quote unquote battle, or the quote unquote profession, uh, the familial profession, or the traditional profession.
But I had a different take on this.
Okay.
The Actually, I wanted to bring up this question, that what if he had accepted father's suggestion that come back to a rural area, be there, means it is less complicated, less corruption. So you will be able to exercise your power of dominance in rural area, rather going into Mumbai, such a big, vicious cycle. See, in both the place you have to enter a cycle, you
Yeah.
cycle, but if you come to rural area, you will survive at least. Okay,
Yeah.
but if you are going to be there, ultimately you are going to suffer. That is what I, because this same thing has, bothered me also. Suppose lot of people have said me, if you go to become a teacher in urban area, you will not be able to be a effective teacher, or you will not be able to teach a student to be nature friendly, in that way. Just a second.
Sorry. So,
Sorry. So I think the same thing. My senior have told, if you come to a rural area, you will be able to teach a student perfectly. You can, all ethics can be, inculcated in students' mind. But whereas urban, it will only give you a set of instruction that, yeah, mathematics, science, do them. More like how to consume, be a consumer in this world. That is what they are going to teach in urban schools. So this thing, no matter where you are going to be a professional teacher, you are going to struggle. But if you come to a rural area, you'll have much more power, authority, and you'll be able to do at least minimum changes. That is what the fathers try to say, that you come back to a rural area, be a police there at least, but you'll be able to do something. You'll be able to, and like him, he's also a police officer and he has survived that. So I felt that he should have taken father's suggestion, at least to be in a police force and do minimum service to the society.
so I think there's a story reason behind that as well, right?
But
Because
Mohammed, there is a big reason that he does not do it.
hmm,
And the reason is, if he did it, then we will not be having this conversation.
Sorry, can you repeat last word?
If he actually took his father's advice, then we'll not be seeing Ardh Satya, right? We'll not
that and I have another answer actually. um, I think he was just too shook by how his mother was treated. But like, I think he had a trauma response to seeing how his father treated his mother, and in turn, and even the way the father solicits him, right? The about the marriage, the way he brings it up, right? She's just an SSLC pass out. she shouldn't, like, she's from a lawyer family, and she's not that beautiful. Besides, a policeman's woman shouldn't be that beautiful. He's talking about he's talking about a woman, and he's talking about his wife. You could say, you can extrapolate it that way, as
Right.
a
True, true.
object, as just a mere, as just another piece in his house, another photo on the wall, so to speak. So I think that's what really kept Anand from going back, despite what he was facing in
Which
Mumbai.
also answers your own question, right? कि why did we start the film in the? Was he already looking for something more in his life? So that answers your question. He was looking something more in his life, and that's why he came.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Now that I yeah, not now that I think about it, it's so to
Ah,
me also,
then
like,
what do
I have
you?
a sorry, go ahead.
Then what do you guys suggest? A person like means any person, whether I should be in a society or should I quit society and run away and become a sannyasi and sit in a Himalayas to truly exercise that noble qualities like truthfulness, justice. I'm not going to get here. Any society, anywhere you are going to, in smaller scale. It may be on smaller scale, but ultimately there is. Mm,
Are you being forced by someone to uh, not live the life that you want to?
Not at all. But my question is, suppose if I can't do do required things like a police officer, I can't bring the change in the society. Then what should I do? I should quit that and just settle into other profession.
So there are
That would mean
there are
failure,
two ways
right?
to look at it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
both are noble ways. One is
yeah,
quit because you feel like you can't do anything. Quit, get out, and look for another profession. But again, the question is, are you going to do anything noble with that profession? Is everything going to be okay with that profession? The other way is if you actually want to do good, you stay there and do whatever little good that you can do. It might be just a drop in the ocean because end of the day, whatever you do is a drop in the ocean. So you there is no real right answer for it. It's just your path. It takes you somewhere and it just takes you somewhere. And it's up to you what you do with it. The problem is that we are all looking for the right solutions, only the right.
solution.
Once you take yourself out of right and wrong, things are much more clearer actually. We just don't define everything in right and wrong. Rumi has said it very nicely, right? He says, which is there in Rockstar. It's a line from Rumi. He said, यहाँ से बहुत दूर एक मैदान है, सही और गलत के पार यहाँ से बहुत दूर एक मैदान है, वहाँ मिलूंगा मैं तुझे. So it's like love is also, when you think about when we fall in love and things that happen in and around love, once you take out what is right and what is wrong, you realize actually what is love, the complexities of love. But till then, we are only thinking, "Arey, what is right, what is wrong." We need to get out from that circle. So, when you ask this question, Kim, what should one do? I what will I do will cannot be same to what you will do because
Yeah,
your character strength might be different from me. Maybe you have inherently you are somebody who's so strong that can put up with anything. I maybe I am not. I cannot put up with any sort of politics. Maybe you can. So I might be a purist, and I want to do everything the right way. So I just quit. But then again, when I get into something else, the politics will be there also, right? So if you're happy, as you said, I go to a smaller society, and maybe it will be a smaller society, but chances of justice being done are much more is not really true, right? Because Om Puri comes from a uh, marginalized community in this film, and you still have toxic masculinity there. It's true in every society. So it doesn't mean just because you are repressed, you have the right human values. You might not have civic liberties. You might be deprived there, but human values are there for everyone.
that's what I mean.
It's out there, right? It's open. It's free for everyone. But everyone, irrespective of their community, chooses not to follow these basic human rights. So it's not about being in the city. City has a I accept actually. Cities do have a dehumanizing quality. Totally agree with you. But everything has
The
its
village isn't that pure either, right?
everything.
It's,
Yes, everything has its place. So I find like the chances of me going to a village and finding something wrong happening with someone, and I will not be able to, if it happens in a village, like a marginalized person is being hit upon by a group of people, I'll not be able to go and complain because even the police will be annoyed. But if I do in the city, the chances of it being noticed are much more. Chances of it being taken seriously are much more. So there is no real right answer for it. So that's why I say, like, don't get stuck. It's just something that I tell everyone. Don't get stuck in this thing. What is right? What is wrong? Obviously, you want to do the right thing, but we get life is actually much more textured than getting stuck into right and wrong.
yeah.
That's why also the cinema that you enjoy is also something that is much more textured than telling you the right thing or what is the wrong thing. You would enjoy a person who would actually go and have an affair compared to somebody who just doesn't have an affair. Like he wants to, but he doesn't have an affair. But you would actually enjoy. Not saying go and have an affair. That is up to you. But
Uh-huh.
when you watch a film, even in the mood for love, even though they don't have an affair on the surface, uh, what they do,
They're intimate. Yeah.
they realize that emotionally they are into each other, right? So that is also cheating, a sort of cheating. Though you can't really call it cheating because the spouses have rolled this dice. But technically, if you think about it, this is not ideal. So what makes life textured is actually things which are not ideal. If you think about it, if everyone was doing the right thing, this is a very boring world.
Yeah. And
Because I wanted, because in this ending part didn't like it. Ending part I really hate because it was like a suicide.
You didn't like
Yeah,
it
they
as
quit the job. He
cinema, you
quit.
didn't like it, or as a person, oh, this is not what I wanted. This is not the right ending, or you're saying it did not work for you. Like,
Yeah, it didn't work. Means I didn't enjoy the ending part really. Yeah.
Mohammed, have you read the booklet? There's something for you there. There
Okay.
was talk of another ending. The film was written with another ending in mind.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Nihalani who persuaded Vijay Tendulkar to go with the current one.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll go through it.
So apparently, I mean, I'll just bring it up here. Might as well. I think let's try to sort of figure out what the implications of this would have been, right? How it would have affected the film overall. Uh, in the original ending, he never kills Ramashetty. He commits suicide. That's true. I don't know. He doesn't commit. We are not told that he commits suicide either. We are just shown Jyotsna going to his apartment, opening the door only to find him dead. So that was Vijay Tendulkar's initial, what do you call, opinion or whatever. Like, that was his take. Uh, and it was Nihalani who felt that there should be one win against the system. The system shouldn't be so. System shouldn't get away with it. The system, in the sense, the Ramashetty and the all the oppressive structures in the world, all the social evils of the world, including the police system. Um, and that's how we got the more I would say more cinematic ending. I think that's also another example where like Vishal mentioned earlier, right? Cinematic the stylization or the I think what do you call license, right? uh, Artistic license
so
was
technically,
taken.
that is, if you just think about the storytelling, is the if you think about the style of the film, let's say it's a realistic film, okay?
uh,
So how do you show the character winning? If it was a real, this is an incident that happened in real life, and the character had to win. The only win that he can have is doing something to Ramashetty. Otherwise, there is
yeah
no win for him, right? The system.
yeah yeah
So Actually, this is the right ending.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I
when you
agree.
think about if you want your hero to win, what else is there that he can do? There is no other way for him to win. Absolutely no way for him to win.
Yeah,
No, he can quit the job and go settle in his village, right?
that's not a win. He'll still have to live with it.
That is running away, right? So
It's
that is a realistic. He's right. That is a realistic
yeah.
way of showing a character progression, but that will. That's not a win, right? That's not a win. That is, he's just it's a cop out. It might be. It might. It's a different ending, but
So
and it's also probably the more real ending. But when you talk about a hero's arc, that does not give you the hero's arc. I'm not saying you want to follow the hero's arc, but
and
it's
yeah,
not
Mohammed,
But
there's also
but I
one more
think
thing,
it's
right?
more about ego. What Vishal, I think what you are saying, it's more about ego being hurt. But I am speaking about experience that he has known that this system is not for me. Then I'll choose something less.
but
Uh,
if it is only about ego, isn't it? Isn't his ego also part of the issue?
Yeah, because that's how he got himself into trouble in the first place, right?
For right or for
By
the right
taking
reasons.
yeah, he should get rid of his ego rather than being a victim to that ego.
But how do you get away from your ego, Mohammed? Can you, as a person, ignore your ego?
Yeah, I can tell you. Because see, when I was a 10th standard,
You can. I'm just saying, but
yeah.
generally,
Not
generally,
so I
generally, we cannot. When you think about human beings, you cannot think about. You can, but you should.
Vishal, I'll share you a real experience. See, earlier I was 10th standard student. I thought that okay, they will listen to my words. I'll do everything changes. But after 3 years, I came to know that nothing is going to be changed here. So I decided, okay, secondary classes are not for me. I'll become a primary teacher, like 6, 7, 8. Those classes where children will be more understanding. At least they will try to, ready for changes, what are good, what is bad. But higher class, they will not listen whatever you do. So I have scaled down my I have come to primary rather than going to
But
secondary.
Mohammed, so
Mohammed,
that
I don't think you had to grow up with Anand Velek's situation, right? He was a guy whose own parents never accepted him for who he was. So in a way, he was always trying to prove himself
but that is
throughout
a
his
reason
life.
why people like you and me they will never make a film on people like you and me.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying? That is what I'm saying. When you actually what we are doing is we, uh, for example, I'm going in. I want to go on a path of being a purist. Like I want to make proper cinema. That's why I never made a film or never approached somebody to make a commercial film. So there is nothing interesting in it because we are trying to do the right thing. But every film that you see has to have a conflict, no? And that conflict comes from this inherent
Clash.
disconnect. There is some sort of disconnect on multiple levels. We took a path. We took a path, and it's actually not an easy path, but we figured it out. That's not where the films. If the character figures it out, I mean, character has to figure it out at some point, but it's not really a win. It's not even a small win, right? Because he can go back to his hometown, okay?
Hmm.
But what has happened in the city has not changed, right? What
And
is
it won't. The
is
memories will
in
stay
the
with him
city?
also.
He fell. His ego is hurt, and for him, if when you think about it, if his ego has been hurt, and actually it was not his mistake. If his ego being hurt, it was not his mistake. Somebody put him in that position. Correct?
Hmm.
So that has never resolved. Whatever you did, there was some sort of resolution in what you did. But in his character, if he just goes back to his hometown, there is no real resolution.
And his ego is just going to be hurt even more by when he goes back. He'll be forced into a life that he doesn't want.
Even if he goes back to his hometown, how does he get away from what has happened back in the city, right? It will be
It'll still, yeah.
it'll be looming at the back of his mind. So, and let's see, real reality and real reality is there are two different things, right? So, just because you or I did something doesn't mean it is going to be it's going to make for good cinema. So even a real film will have a taxi driver. Let's say it's a realistic film, for example, shot in a realistic way. But it's not a real film from uh, any
Emotional.
it's not really a real film. It's just shot realistic. So don't get into that zone that he. It's up to you. This is the end that you wanted.
Yeah. Mohammed, I think you're being a bit too much of a logician on this one.
But I would say technically, I would just say
No, because see, lot of my engineering friends, no, in pandemic also, they didn't have any job, but they didn't agree to go and do farming, though they have land. When I asked them, why you're not going, guys? You can earn something, you can feed yourself. But they didn't do that. But I think it was more about ego, being egoistic. That why should I, have a better image in the society? So that ego kills us.
Okay. So that's also another critique that the film does, right? Men, like men, we kind of pride ourselves on what we achieve, our accomplishments, right? As we grow up, like safe. One of us, I think, I'm the engineer here, so I became an engineer. Most of my relatives would know me as the engineer kid, or my father. They would think of me as the engineer or something or the other.
Sorry,
but
Jeffrey, please don't take it personally. I just
no. No. That's not the point. I'm just making the example. As we kind of measure, as men, we kind of measure ourselves on our accomplishments, and when we don't get that, it does leave a hole, or it does leave this doubt, right?
Also, Mohammed,
void of self-doubt.
You think from their point of view, they don't want to be farmers, right?
Yeah,
Even
they
they are
say
in the vicious cycle of ego. That is what I'm.
Oh, why
Everywhere you are in
not
Chicago.
there might be people who
So-
want to do farming because of an ego issue, but think about it. The reason they became engineers, though it is most of it is because you just follow what others do, but if you wanted to become, you became an engineer because you wanted a sort of life. Why would you want to go back to being a farmer? So, for example, like the reason I say this is I have done my hotel management. So, and the most lucrative thing is to sell vada pav, but it's easy money. But if I only wanted to sell vada pav, why would I go through this ordeal of doing hotel management? Because you had some vision, like I did not, but my friends had, like they wanted to be chefs in the big glamorous.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
You can't really say this is not a dream worth having. So when you I agree with you, there might be an ego issue with some people don't want to go to farming, but they did not want to be farmers. It's plain and simple.
Yeah,
And it takes time to get it takes time to even get to that state, right, where you would want to take up farming, even if that were to happen, that progression were to happen.
It has to
You would have to go through the 6 stages of grief at not being an engineer, and then not finding any hope
these are not easy decisions to make. I would say it's not really, like, for example,
it's very existential.
I have a family business, but I don't want to go. I don't want to be part of it. It's because I'm very sure that it will shut down if I become part of it. As in, if I start running it, I'm not good at it. It's plain and simple. I want to do something else with my life, and I'm probably going to be a big failure. But it's how it is. So they don't want to be farmers. It's plain and simple. And push comes to shove, probably they will. As he said, you'll go through some sort of depression, but you don't really have an option. But I don't think you can attribute everything to ego.
Yeah, I think that's a little reductive because, and I don't think Anand has ever been like the character, right? I don't think he's ever had another out. He's never had he's never been shown any other possible reaction, right? The only person who shows him that there's another path possible, she leaves him at the end.
We should also stop having this expectation from our characters that they have all the answers. Do we have all the answers?
Yeah,
We don't have all.
we don't have all the answers to our life.
Never will have all the answers.
Yeah.
Except Vivek. That's it.
Yeah.
But we'll never have all the answers. So
Yeah.
And that's why characters are interesting. So I think you expect too much Mohammed from your characters.
Mohammed is being a pakka teacher here.
Now I know, correct. That is absolutely right.
It's coming from, yeah.
Do your students, maybe his students are listening to the
Podcast, the video.
Mohammed, sorry.
No, Baba, no.
You're right.
No, don't grill me now. That's enough.
Yeah. All that said, I think this is a good place to stop the discussion, right? Do we have anything else to add?
No, like it was fun. Like I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think this conclusion is like a good space.
Yeah. Mohammad's grilling. Mohammed is like, why didn't you even say it?
We'll grill after the recording ends. Even more, otherwise Vivek might. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be stopping the recording.